All
Oh,
right.
no, I
Well,
was just about to say something dirty and now I can't.
sure you can.
No, it's recording.
Just say that that it's just somebody that looks like you.
There you
Let's see. I'm trying to find its first. Oh, here we go. All right. Well, welcome everybody for our first meeting of the year. So, for starters here, just kind of by show of the reaction hands or some such, how many people are going to Texas? All right. Ooh, we got some.
go.
All right, we got some going on here. Yeah. So, dress warm. It's only going to be 101 degrees at game time and 53% humidity. So, it'll be brisk there. Um, but and I understand that TV and everybody said it would be okay to move the game from 3 o'clock Central Time to evening, and North Texas said no, they wanted it in the afternoon. They are thinking that it's going to give them a huge advantage. I'm not sure I can argue with that, but hopefully we'll be up to the task. We don't have an official watch party for the game. However, if anybody is looking to join some other Cal fans for the game, typically everybody meets over at Clubhouse 56. And so, although we're not official, it's not an official formal watch party. There will be people there, I'm sure. Check out the game. It's going to be on at 1 o'clock Pacific time. And if you're going to be watching from home, it's on ESPNU. So be able to see it there. Okay, so I'm sure that we all would like an update on the conference realignment, as would I. Alex is here, Alex Morante from the athletic department, and I'm sure he has absolutely no news for us on that. But maybe he can give us some sorts of insights. And plus, we'll be talking in a few minutes here, just kind of what else is going on in the athletic department. See, so that's kind of where we are at with conference realignment. Once again, we do not have a speaker from North Texas. Was unable to get an opposing speaker. I do not know what is going on. Last year, you notice we didn't have any either. I reach out and I reach out and I reach out to different people that cover whoever our opponents are, as I did for North Texas. And it's not even that they're turning us down. They're just not even responding. It's just being ghosted. So unfortunately, don't have anybody to tell us about the mean green. Let's see what else I have to talk about. I unfortunately haven't been able to get back with John Stock from the San Francisco Grid Club, but he and I've had some conversations, and if anybody's interested in joining or um, any interest in attending any of the San Francisco Grid Club events, I can get you the information on that. It is the structure is quite a bit different than what we have here. For one thing, they meet in person for lunch, and um, and they do have meetings every week. I think they alternate between someplace actually in San Francisco and someplace, and then also I believe the University Club at the stadium. There is a slight price differential, although they are doing Zoom meetings too, I believe, some meetings on Zoom, which would be able to attend. It's a slight price differential here. We don't actually charge dues. I think they just charge a little bit more. I think it's $1,500 a year. But John maybe doing a little, may be able to do a little something for us if we won't, if people here from Sacramento obviously won't be going down to the meetings. They may be able to do a lower thing for just Zoom or something like that. But if anybody's interested, just go ahead and shoot me an email, and I'll give you the information on that. Let's see. Um, Upcoming meetings. We have 2 meetings scheduled. We're not going to again have something every week. Our next meeting is that we do have scheduled is going to be September 20th, and that will be on Zoom. Registrations are open for that. They're in the emails. And our guest for that is going to be it's kind of a no-brainer for me to who to pick, because it's going to be Justin Allegre, who is replacing Joe Starkey in the booth. So Justin will be with us for that. I reached out to him. He got right back to me. Is very excited about attending. So he will be here to tell us all about his plans and what it's going to be like. Maybe Alex, when I bring you up here in a couple of minutes, I don't know if you've met him or not yet, but kind of give us your first impressions. So that we'll have Justin here on September 20th over Zoom. And then on October 11th, Jim Knowlton will be with us. Now, we don't have that formally set up yet with with Zoom or anything, because there is a possibility, it's very open right now, that he may be able to have an in-person meeting. So we may be doing something in person, but nothing in concrete. But if not, it will be on Zoom. So that's what we've got going on there. With that, I don't have any other kind of announcements. Keep watching chat here. People have tickets for games and things, and for the game and things like that. So keep an eye on chat. So I'm actually going to turn over to Alex right now, and Alex will give us everything he knows about what's going on in the athletic department, and what his kind of maybe take on the season, anything he knows about North Texas, and he's going to give us a definitive answer in what conference we're going to be playing in, right, Alex?
No, I will not be doing that. I'll give you guys an update to update you guys. I would say we all know the same amount. Yes, I work in the athletic department, but I'm sure we all get the news at the same time on Twitter. There was a joke that was said the other day along the lines of, we will probably find out on Twitter rather than find out, through formal channels in our offices. So it's just an ongoing process. I know that there was supposed to be a vote yesterday, as we all know, and there's a tragic shooting at UNC's campus. So obviously that had to be pushed, and our thoughts are with them. But our hope is that, I know we were shooting for something prior to us kicking off on Saturday. So our fingers are still crossed that that's going to take place, in a vote will take place, whether that's in the ACC or we've seen other things pop up as well. But as of right now, I know just as much as you guys. And what I do know is that we're fired up for Cal football to take the field on Saturday against University of North Texas. I think our team has done a great job of controlling what they can control. I know Justin really preaches that. These young 18 to 21, 22-year-old young men are focused on playing football, and that's what we're asking them to do, and go out there and get a win on Saturday and have that be their main focus. So we're fired up for everybody who's going to Denton. Hopefully you guys have seen some of the events that are taking place, whether that's the tailgate on Saturday or our Cal kickoff event taking place at Katy Trail Ice House on Friday evening or Friday afternoon. But yeah, that's all I got as in regards to updates. As the rep in Sacramento, I am for sure trying to make it so Justin is able to attend. I mean, not Justin, that Jim is able to attend the Grid Club meeting on the 11th of October. And I'll tell you guys what, Justin Allegre is an awesome individual. I ran into him in the hallway, I think on his third day on campus, and I was late to my next meeting because he is a chatter. He is a great talker. Very informed with Bay Area sports. He's a Bay Area native, and he's excited to be at Cal. He emceed our student athlete welcome back party last week at Cal Memorial Stadium, where we had all 850 plus student athletes up in the stands at CMS, and he emceed that, and he is a great voice for our Golden Bears. So we're excited to have him on board. You guys are going to have a hoot listening to him on in a couple weeks.
Okay, I was muted there, so I had to get myself back on track. So Alex, is there any sort of has a team, do you know, been doing anything in particular to prepare for the extreme heat and humidity? I mean, they've played in heat and humidity in the past a number of times, but this is really hot, and although the humidity is not as high as some places, it's going to be pretty miserable. So have they been doing anything to try to prepare for that, or that you know of?
Yeah, they had 2 offsite practices in at Monte Vista High School a couple weeks ago, and it was up to about, I would say, like high 80s. Granted, you can't replicate the 101-degree heat with humidity in the Bay Area, but that was as close as they can get. And I know those practices went as good as they possibly could. But yeah, this is it's definitely a different type of heat. I'm sure they'll have fans on the sidelines and lots of water and lots of ice, but aside from that, you can't really replicate it. And I don't know off the top of my head if they've really been doing anything outside of those couple offsite practices to really gear up for the 101-degree, 102-degree heat.
Yeah, I know it's and that's kind of one of the things that I've been been thinking about when if we end up in the ACC and end up having a lot of road games, in the on the East Coast and Southeast where it's humid all the time. And I know that at times when we've played like in Colorado and stuff, they go up to Tahoe and practice a few times to get acclimated to the high altitudes and stuff. But I just don't know of anything in the Bay Area that you could do to prepare on a regular basis for that kind of humidity.
Yeah, it's gonna be a hot one for sure. Be sure to wear some breathable clothes and avoid gray at all costs.
Didn't Coach Wilcox take him to Davis?
I'm not too sure. I've been out of the office for a few days. So if that were to have taken place, probably it must have been back then.
Yeah, actually, and Joe is saying in chat that one day last week and they were in Davis for the 95-degree weather.
That's a lot better than the 85-degree weather they got in Danville. So hopefully that practice went very well.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, Alex. Well, thank you for the report, and hopefully we'll be getting some news in the next couple of days, but who knows? So I'm going to kind of chat a little bit here. Jim McGill is having trouble getting in, and so I'm just sending him a text. I know that Pat had trouble also, and she's in here. I think she re-registered, so I'm giving him a little advice to try to register again, and maybe the link will work. He's having some issues getting in. So
Gary, while we're waiting, I'd like to ask Alex the question.
Sure.
Alex, this is already Tuesday, but how soon is the team going to Denton, Texas, for the game to try to at least get a little acclimated? 1 day or 2 days of.
They leave bright and early on Thursday morning.
Thursday.
So they'll have a practice on Thursday afternoon and then Friday afternoon as well.
Friday.
Kind of mid-morning-ish, 11 o'clock, I would say. 11 to 1, I would probably guess.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Okay, well, hopefully Jim is having some trouble getting in, so hopefully he will get in. But I do have one other thing that I have, we need to, or I want to do before Jim, let's give a little time for him to come on board. So I'm gonna to share my screen here for a moment. So over the last few months, we've had a couple of losses from past presidents, and I just wanted to kind of say a few things because they are people that that meant a lot to me. The first is Dewey Willis. Dewey was president of Grid Club from 2009 and 2010 season, and if I remember correctly, he was the one that actually asked me if kind of recruited me to be the president in 2013. Dewey is, one of those people that although he didn't always gush it, he was blue and gold through and through. You never saw Dewey without a smile on his face and a kind word. Anytime I asked him for anything, he was always willing to help, and always, just gave me a lot of support. When I was president and for the last few years too. Dewey passed away on June 23rd, which I don't know what this means, but it's actually 52 years to the day that my own dad passed away. So he passed away on the same day, which is, I don't know what that means. I know that when Dewey passed on the 23rd, he was wearing a Cal shirt. And a couple of years back, there was one of the season ticket swag was a big Cal blanket, and he had that as well. So Dewey, it's a big loss to the club, and we're going to miss him. And a few months prior, we lost Patty Bonstetter. And I'm not going to give Patty a real tribute because she would absolutely hate that. She would never forgive me for that. But I will say that Jeff Wong and Patty were kind of my mentors throughout all the leadership times I've had. Comes Jim, and they were both my sounding board. Anytime that I had an idea or something kind of came up or whatever, I would contact Patty. I'd give her a call, and to the point where I still, to this day, if something comes up or I have an idea, it's just anything like that, I still just automatically pick up the phone and call Patty and try to call Patty for input. And before I realize that she's not there anymore. For Tiny Bates dinners, she was on the phone constantly calling past presidents from way back and Tiny Bates winners, getting them to attend. We were in her house after she passed to kind of help go through some of her things. I believe that she had every single solitary Cal ticket stub that she ever used. She and more. Her house was just jam-packed with, I don't think anything that reminded her of Cal or was Cal or anything she ever got rid of it. It was all there. She had hundreds and hundreds of Cal t-shirts, and she had asked for nothing to be sold. She wanted everything given to a good home. A number of us have some of her shirts now, but several dozen of them went up to the lair with us. And because by week 7, the shirts are kind of getting pretty ratty for the staff. And we gave them out, and the staff just loved these t-shirts. And this picture that you see up in the upper right-hand corner is a picture of the staff wearing Patty's t-shirts. They loved them. They loved the story behind them. And they had a whole lot of love for Patty for a person that they never even met. It was just an amazing tribute to her. But I do have to just say that Patty, before almost every one of these Zoom meetings, about 10 minutes before, when I'm trying to get ready, I get a call from Patty, and the call every single time said the same thing. I can't find my link to the meeting. Can you send me my link? and I would send her the link. And then a few minutes later, I would get another call from her. And that call was always the same. Why won't this work? Why isn't it? It won't. Did I ever tell you that I hate Zoom? Same thing every time. So that's the kind of story she would want me to tell about her. But
Well, the other legacy is that she and her husband, Gene, endowed the point guard position on the basketball team
yes,
in perpetuity,
in perpetuity. Yes.
even though Gene went to Iowa.
Right. Hence Patty's email address. But I am going to miss Pat. Oh, I already do. I miss Patty and Dewey both. As I say, I still pick up the phone to call her sometimes, and I expect her to be calling me. So with that,
Gary,
well,
Gary,
yes,
if I could just add, I'm active on Twitter, and so I sent out something about when Patty passed, and I didn't direct it at anybody, but I got some of the lovely responses from Sam Singer, from Joel Brown, from Roxy Bernstein, and I don't know if it would be appropriate for me to share those.
sure, go ahead.
Sam Singer said, heartbreaking news. Forever indebted to Patty for giving me the opportunity to be a student athlete at Cal as my scholarship donor, but even more grateful for our friendship off the floor. Rest in paradise, Patty. I miss you dearly. And Joel Brown said, my condolences go out to the Bonstetter family. I am forever blessed and grateful for Patty being my scholarship donor. Your unwavering support and passion will never go unnoticed. Rest in paradise, Patty. And Roxy Bernstein said, crushed to see this. Patty was an amazing woman, always genuine and happy, except when it was a bad day for the Bears. We'll miss our chats, texts, and phone calls. We lost a special lady. She was so proud of the scholarship she endowed and all the lives she helped.
Yeah, thank you, Leslie. Yeah, it's it's been a tough loss for me. And I know for everybody in the Cal family in Sacramento, she was really I've been calling her, she was the Sacramento Cal alumni matriarch. And we are going to miss her. So I just like, before we turn it over, if everybody just kind of raise a glass, to you, Patty, and to you, Dewey, we're going to miss you. All right. So Jim, did you get in?
I'm here.
All right, fantastic. Okay, thanks for I know you had sorry you had some trouble getting in. A couple other people did too, but glad you're here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jim here in a second. But just Jim, I was going to ask you, do you know how many years you've been doing this with us? I don't. I mean, I was asking you.
I would think it's about 15 or so.
Yeah, I would say at least. Yeah, so Jim's been with us. He's become a tradition, our season opening speaker. Jim has been following the Bears through practice, and he always gives us a fantastic report on what's going on with football, a little bit with basketball, recruiting, and what we can expect. So, Jim, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Jim.
Hey, how are you guys doing? Always good to talk to the SAC people. So I was there at the dominant majority of the spring and fall practices. The only 2 of the 15 I missed in spring, I was on our annual home building trip in Mexico with our youth group. And then this year, this fall, out of the 17 practices, I was at 15 and a half. So I had a pretty good view of what was going on in spring ball and fall camp. Everybody asked how good is the team going to be this year, and I don't really know. I look at the defense and see depth that is pretty unprecedented, where there's very little drop off in the second unit in any position of the 11, and that's a big deal. The offense, so much hinges on the offensive line and the quarterback play. I really like the depth at receiver. Jade Knott's a key piece in the running back room. If he got hurt, there would definitely be a drop off behind him. There is quality behind him, but he's the guy. And at quarterback, I was a little concerned, like everybody else. What if Jackson gets hurt? Are they going to have anybody out there? But Mendoza really took a nice step. He had a good spring and an even better fall. So he looks like a legit competitor that if he needs to play, I don't expect a huge drop off. And then Ben Finley transferring in from North Carolina State was a really key add. I was a little skeptical because, yes, he had a good game beating their rival North Carolina in their late season game, but he had a couple other games where his completion percentage was fairly low. And I always like to see accuracy in quarterbacks. But he's been really accurate this fall at Cal, and he can throw to all three levels. Seems to be a pretty poised guy. So I think that they have legit quarterback depth. So if Jackson falters, I feel like the coaches would be comfortable, trying some other stuff out where it just doesn't all hinge on Jackson. The offensive line, they show signs of being a decent amount better. Mike Blesh is a really good coach. He's had a top 20 running game and pass protection game most of his years as an offensive line coach, playing with inferior talent at North Texas and Tulsa. So that was a good change. And one of the big things that I think he's instilled in talking to the players is an attitude of toughness. And that's been lacking in recent years on the offensive line. And you really need those guys to be tough and to exert their will. So if they could get good play at offensive line, or solid play at least, and they don't have too many mistakes at quarterback, not a bunch of pick sixes, not too many turnovers, I expect that they should be able to get back to a bowl game this year. How good of a bowl game, I don't know, because this is a really rough schedule this year. The road games at Utah and Washington and Oregon and UCLA and home games against Auburn and SC, those aren't easy games. So, you don't look at the schedule and say, oh, here's your automatic 7 or 8 or 9 wins. They're going to have to pull some upsets, but I think they have a lot more talent than people think. So if they don't make a lot of mistakes and if they get the offense rolling, they're certainly capable of a good year. So, those changes, bringing Spav back too as offensive coordinator was a big deal. Musgrave, they'd have a good game here and there, like the big game win at Stanford 2 years ago. They just steamrolled them on offense. But most of the time, the offense was stuck in the sand, and they just weren't generating any consistency. And Spav just has a philosophy of finding holes in the defense and not being inflexible, but allowing his players to break off routes when they see an open territory where the DB is not covering, allowing them to get off script and do a lot of things kind of like sandlot ball that's intuitive, that I think is really necessary in today's college game. So those moves and bringing in Plow as the tight end coach, former UC Davis offensive coordinator and Boise State offensive coordinator, that was a nice move too. He was one of the guys that helped call plays after they dismissed Musgrave last year. He was a consultant. So, they've addressed what I think we all would say were their big needs in the offseason. And the biggest thing I think they did besides the coaching changes was they really went hard in the portal, and they brought in a ton of quality that is showing up all over the field in the first and second team depth chart. Jackson's obviously a big name, but if you look at the receivers, I really like Brian Hightower, a transfer from Illinois. He's about 6'4" and super athletic, and he really stretches the field. He's got a great catch radius. And Marquise Montgomery, a JC transfer, he's 6'5", another guy that he started a little slow in fall camp, but he's really turned it on, and he's been super consistent. Isaiah Ifanse in the running back room, he's Montana State's all-time leading rusher. Justin Williams-Thomas is a transfer from Tennessee that has been out this fall, but he's supposed to be back at some point early this season. He'll be a quality add in the running back room too. On the offensive line, Barrett Miller transferring from Stanford. He's a 3-year starter, and he's taking over at left tackle, and he's done a really nice job. He's taking Braden Rome's place, who has made a nice jump in the spring and the fall too. So when he gets in rotationally, expect to see a better Rome. And on the other side, TJ Session has made a really big jump. He had a really rough year last year, and he's been pretty consistent in spring and fall. But you never really know about the offensive line until the bullets are flying. I'm not predicting the line will be great this year. I think the ingredients are there to be a decent amount better, but that's probably one of my biggest question marks. Then you got a transfer from Texas A&M, Wyckoff, who had a good fall, but Vodacani and Driscoll played so well that he didn't force his way into the starting lineup, so he'll be a key backup for them. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they picked up a couple of really nice transfer linebackers from Clemson and Florida, Sergio Allen and David Reese. Those guys really add some juice to the pass rush, and they're strong and active players. They're going to play a lot. In the defensive backfield, they really retooled that. The biggest addition is Noel Williams, a starter from UNLV, a 2-year starter that he's just on receivers like glue, and he forces turnovers, and he plays really tight man coverage, which allows them to do a lot of things on defense that you can't do when the DBs are playing soft. And then Malik McMorris's brother, a safety who was the conference defensive player of the year. He was a really nice addition, first team All-League the last 2 years. He's going to be starting opposite Craig Woodson. They brought in a JC transfer, Matt Littlejohn, who played his way into starting at the nickel position. So they added a lot of real high quality transfer depth, and that is a big key to not only giving the team depth this year, where it's not a big drop off after the first team, but guys that have come in and have taken over starting roles relatively quickly. So that was really good to see, and I think that along with the 3 coaching changes are probably the biggest changes we're going to see this year. Plus having a quarterback that can run a dynamic offense. Sam Jackson is exactly who Spav wanted to run his offense. And, if he can stay healthy and he can play composed ball, hopefully you'll see a team that can average close to 30 or more, because 24 games not getting it done. I'd be happy to open up the floor to questions.
Jim, you did have one question to start in chat from Leslie. Any thoughts on how Cal was able to do so well recruiting through the transfer portal? It was very impressive.
The staff are really high quality people, and they have a great way of connecting with players. It's a little bit different dynamic in the transfer portal than it is in the high school ranks. A lot of these guys that they brought in are guys that they started to recruit out of high school earlier, established a base relationship. Then they go to their other school and they see, I don't really like this situation as much as what I saw at Cal on my visit. And my relationship with my coach, it's not like these Cal coaches that are recruiting me. So a lot of it's relationship oriented, and a lot of it is strictly an opportunity to play in a better conference or to start for a program where you might be a backup. I mean, you look at David Reese and Sergio Allen, those guys were playing on super talented rosters at Florida and Clemson, and now they're in a situation where their playing time opportunities are more clear, and they're definitely going to get their chance. So it can be a variety of reasons.
There's another question in chat from Steve. Word coming out of practice, at least fairly early on, was that Jackson was having issues with decision-making and consistency. So do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, that was an issue for sure. He had a good spring where he didn't turn over the ball too much. And for those of you who saw the spring game, you saw a really nice performance. He had some uneven moments early mid-camp. It wasn't consistent. It was here and there. He had one really bad practice where he had 4 interceptions, and that was a real concern. But after that, he didn't throw a single interception in the last 4 practices, and some of it included some scrimmage type settings. So, I think consistency will come with more play, but he's going to have to earn trust as he strings together some good games this year. But I think that the way that he ended camp that last week instilled more faith that he's going to be able to execute this offense and not make too many mistakes. But he knows he's got two guys waiting behind him that had good camps too. And that's a good luxury for the staff to have. And it's a good source of motivation that they can use on Jackson too, in case he ever slips up a little bit and doesn't stay as sharp as he needs to.
Hey, Dave Taylor wants to say, we have some big receivers. Do we have enough speed at wide receiver?
Yeah, there's a lot of speed there. Maven Anderson is super fast. Mason Mangum is super fast. He's a guy that you haven't seen too much of. He had a 30-yard reception last year early on, but he got injured. It was really a track-related injury. Incidentally, he's got like the 8th longest long jump in Cal history at like 25.8 or something. So he's a super athletic guy. And a lot of those big guys are quick. They get down the field. They are not just high point guys where you throw the ball up and they're taller so they get it. They're stretching the field consistently. Montgomery's got really good wheels. Marquez Dortch, a transfer from Mississippi State, is super fast. Yeah, they're not lacking in speed at receiver at all.
Hey, and Dave Sheringham wants to know, what are the special events for games this year? Band Day, homecoming, and then what does it cost per explosion when Cal scores and the cannon is fired?
You've stumped me on all of these, I'm afraid.
I can take this one if you'd like.
Yeah, please do.
All right. So first game at home of the, I'm reading these off a sheet, so bear with me if I sound a little robotic, but Auburn game is a gold out. There's going to be a drone light show, and we're kicking off to 100 years of CMS versus Idaho on the 16th. It's Hometown Heroes weekend. And then on the 30th of September against Arizona State, it's Bay Area Appreciation and Hispanic Heritage. Homecoming is October 7th against Oregon State. And then USC weekend, that is our Hall of Fame weekend. So we'll be having some pretty historic Cal alumni coming back for that. And then wrapping up against Washington State at home. It's going to be our salute to service game. I do not know how much it costs to blow off the cannon. But
well, and I've got go ahead.
Regardless of how expensive it is, hopefully we run that tab up this year.
So just kind of a one more question for you, Alex, before we go back to Jim. Are there any plans for what I think was questioned last year, one of our meetings? Is there any plans for a Joe Starkey bobblehead?
Oh, I don't know that off the top of my head. I don't know if there might be a bobblehead. I don't know if it's Joe though. I do not know. That'd be great though.
It would. We need one. Okay. So Dwayne had a question for Jim. We may have good depth on defense, but what can we expect with any players who can rush the passer? Our pass rush has been atrocious for several years.
Yeah, I mean that's the big question. I think those two transfer guys that I mentioned, David Reese and Sergio Allen, are going to be two of the big sources on the pass rush. Miles Jernigan has been good on the pass rush. I think he wasn't big enough when he was the main pass rush threat to be able to fight off blocks, but there's a lot of other players out there now that are going to be taking the blockers' attention. So I think Jernigan might be freed up to get to the QB a little bit more than he was able to last year. And then Miles Williams, they call him BMW because he's the bigger of the two. Miles Williams, the other is a safety. He's a good pass rush specialist too. So I think those guys are going to be the four main sources that you'll see out there pressuring the passer. I don't know how good the pass rush is going to be because you really can't get a good sense for it in camp. I mean, you just can't. It's not live most of the time. Even when it's a scrimmage, there's limited ability to tell what they can do because they can't tackle the quarterbacks, and you got a guy like Jackson, and he's really hard to tackle, and just touching him doesn't mean you tackle them. So, but those are the four main guys I think that you need to look towards. And last year, part of the problem was there wasn't a big defensive line to eat up blocks. Now with Brett Johnson back, and with Stanley McKenzie back, teaming with Correa and Sanders and Nate Burrell, who's looked really good coming into his sophomore year, those guys are going to be tying up blockers. So the edge rushers and blitzers are going to have a better chance to get to the QB now. So I think that that's going to be one of the things that's going to be apparent pretty early.
You mentioned Brett Johnson. He's been injured so much. Is there any kind of, does it look like he's going to stay healthy this time, or just kind of hard to say, or is he somebody that's just prone to injury, or?
Well, I wouldn't say he's prone to injury. The first one, he got hit on a scooter. He can't do anything about that. Second one, the ACL, he'd never had any leg injuries before. You don't know if he's going to re-injure it or not. Sometimes when you've been injured and you're favoring one area of your body, it can throw things off a little bit and make you more susceptible to an injury somewhere else. So the coaches have been super careful with him. He looks stronger and more fit than he's been every year at Cal. So that's a positive sign. But I don't think we'll really know until we see consistently how he does. I don't expect him to get a huge amount of snaps right out of the gate, but he'll certainly be playing from week one. And just his very presence there and his strength is going to be a nice boost for the defense. And keep in mind, too, that they run a 2-4-5 alignment. So they don't need a ton of linemen in there. They can rotate real liberally and still put pressure on. So they don't need him to be an every down guy, but when he is out there, he's definitely going to help. There's no signs that he's struggling at all. I'd say he probably looks about 95%.
All right, great. All right, Joe had a question for you. You indicated that Cal may be improved enough and have sufficient on-field success to end the season bowl eligible. I hope you're correct, but in addition to the tough schedule, haven't many other Pac-12 teams also used the transfer portal and grown the depth of their own rosters?
Yeah, that's the wild card. I mean, I'm never a guy that sits there and looks at the schedule and say, this is a win, this is a loss, because every year is different. And were the portal guys that they brought in, did they live up to their billing? Did they really fill a need, or did they just add depth where it's not going to make a big difference on the team? I know what Cal did in adding guys that were in key positions that really shored up their weaknesses. It's really hard to do a deep enough dive on the other teams to know, did they as effectively implement their portal strategy as Cal did? Cal's certainly not the only one. I mean, look at what teams were able to do through the portal at quarterback. That was a total game changer last year. Cal was the best quarterback league in the country, and almost all of it was portal related. So, I mean, yes, Cal did some good stuff, but when push comes to shove, you got to see how it works out on the field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the next question actually might be an Alex question, or I think I probably can answer it too, from Richard and Garth. Is Joe Roth game still against USC? And Garth's kind of asking, the same question, sort of just, isn't USC a Joe Roth game?
Yeah, it is. But no Joe Roth jerseys, unfortunately, because they signed up with Nike too late to get the jerseys produced. They're supposed to be coming back next year, but it will be a Joe Roth game. I don't know what their plan is going forward, if it'll be a certain set of opponents or a certain date, certain game of the year. But as far as I know, they're intending to continue it. It just might not be against a fixed set of opponents like it's been for all these years.
All right, great. Thank you. Let's see. Larry would like to know, is Jackson really 5'11"? It's not uncommon for stats to get inflated. Finley and Mendoza are over 6 feet. Does that give them any advantage?
I would say Jackson is 5'11". If he's below 5'11", no more than a half an inch or an inch. Definitely height does give you an advantage. You can see over the line better. You can see over the defense better. It just is a clearer view of the field. But he, like so many other athletic, shorter quarterbacks, has a unique playing style where he throws at different arm angles and he throws on the run and on the jump. So he has ways of mitigating the size disadvantage. If you aren't able to do that kind of thing, I just don't see how you can be an effective quarterback at this level below 6 feet. But there's a growing list of quarterbacks that are his size that have had really, really good careers that play the game very unconventionally if they're athletic enough, like he is.
Dave would like, Trimmingham would like to know, oh, just scrolled on me here. Is all the Berkeley construction finished by the stadium? Is iHouse finally open to the public? Do you know?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes. All
Great.
the scaffolding is down.
Oh, nice, nice. Okay, Dave would like to know, you already spoke about how Brett Johnson looks. Richard would like to know, how close to a sellout will the Auburn game be? How many Auburn fans are expected?
Well, the ticket office tried to say we need 22,000, but there's just zero chance of that happening. I think it'll be closer to 10, and I think the attendance will probably be in the 50s. So I expect Cal fans to outnumber Auburn fans at least 4-1 in that game. But it'll be good attendance for sure. They're doing a good job pushing that game as the premier game of the early season schedule.
Okay, cool. That's all that's in chat. I've got actually a couple of questions before I see if anybody else has anything. So with all of the conference realignment and everything going on, I know that the coaches are really working to keep that's a separate issue from practice and everything. But does it seem to give the team any like additional motivation or anything, or is it just no impact?
I don't think it's having a big impact. They've got so much to focus on right now and turning the program around. I just don't have the sense that they're stressed about it. I think there is an innate desire to show that they're worthy. So in that sense, there is probably some motivation there, but honestly, they're so sick of losing that source of motivation is so high right now. I don't know how much other external factors can ramp that up anymore. I mean, to go 4-8 in a year that you came into the season thinking you're going to a bowl game, that's a pretty lousy surprise. And to have 3 straight losing seasons, it's not sitting well with anybody.
Dave has a question. Dave Taylor, if we finish below 500 this year, is Wilcox done?
I don't think so, because they structured the contract in a way where he gets paid his full contract if he gets fired. So they'd have to eat either 4 or 5 years of contract over 20 million, and there's no money for that. If that wasn't an issue, I think there's a growing lack of patience where 3 straight losing seasons and adding a 4th to it would be a big problem with a lot of people. But that contract situation, I just don't think he's legit on the hot seat. Now, I will say this: if they ended up having a really lousy season, a 3-win or a 4-win season, I don't think Wilcox is content to just sit back and earn a big paycheck. He's too proud for that. I could see a situation where he negotiated a big buyout where they didn't have to pay nearly the whole contract. Because I think the idea of taking $4 million plus a year and producing losing season after losing season doesn't sit well with him at all. Some coaches may say, "Hey, that's just the game," but I don't think he's that kind of guy. Hopefully, we won't find ourselves in the situation to see if that's what end up happening. Hopefully, they've got the ingredients now to turn it around and have a good year, so it makes it a moot point.
Yeah, I have quite kind of a question similar vein about coaches. So last year when Musgrave and Angus McClure were fired, it was kind of a big announcement, and it was covered pretty well. But when Jeep Chris was gone and you guy came in, it was really very under the radar. It was sort of what happened to him? Was there a reason for that, or just kind of the way the media worked, or?
Well, he didn't get let go at the same time. He was still around after Musgrave and McClure were gone. So I don't think he actually ended up leaving until after the season. And it was just a quiet thing where the program didn't announce it, so there really wasn't media chatter about it either. He did play a role in helping design the game planning after Musgrave was gone. So it wasn't like it was a sure thing that he was going to be gone, but I think it was a fit issue too. He was an older guy, and I think they felt like they needed to get younger and more innovative at that position.
Hmm.
So that's what ended up happening.
Yeah. Richard would like to know how good is Cal's NIL program going?
I think it's about a middle of the pack in the Pac-12. There's a couple people behind it, particularly Kevin Kennedy, that are just doing amazing work. But really, for Cal to be as strong as they need to be, new donors need to be brought into the fold that really haven't been a part of supporting Cal athletics yet. There's been some people that have been identified as potential guys, including a billionaire sports owner that they're trying to establish a relationship with. I think the relationship needs to come first before the money, but that's going to be the biggest key. But it's over 3 million, which has been pretty solid, and I think we owe Kevin Kennedy and Greg Richardson and some of the people behind the scenes a big debt of gratitude for that, because that's taken a lot of work to get that off the ground. There's been a lot of resistance with old Blues that just don't like the idea of NIL, but you know, you can oppose something in principle, but if it's going to cause your program to be at a major competitive disadvantage because you're philosophically opposing it, you're hurting the team that you love at the same time. So they've had to overcome that hurdle.
So Joe had another question for you. What are your thoughts about conference realignment as it relates to Cal in particular?
Sounds like there's a really good chance that Cal and Stanford and SMU are going to go to the ACC. And obviously, geographically, it's not ideal, but they need to be in a power conference. And to me, even though it's not geographically as close, it's a much better option than Big 12. It's going to probably cost them some revenue initially by taking a smaller share because the ACC has leverage in that area. When they get to a full share, all signs point to it being higher than Big 12 and getting within at least some reasonable range of what the Pac-12 teams got in the Big 12 or Big 10. So I expect an announcement to happen later this week. If it doesn't happen, I think it'll be a surprise to a lot of people affiliated with Cal.
Okay. Garth would like to know which, it's scrolling on me here. Garth would like to know which sports are likely to be cut when realignment ends due to revenue shortfalls and expense increase.
You know, that's a big question because I don't know how they're going to navigate Title IX. Football takes up so many scholarships right now, and rugby too, that there has to be an imbalance of women's sports to men's sports to make up for it. And you can't just cut men's sports. So I don't know. I mean, soccer, gymnastics, field hockey, those might be some of the ones on the line. Baseball potentially, but the baseball has raised enough money to cover the expenses of the team for 2 10-year increments, as far as I know. So I don't know why you'd want to cut a program if they're fully funded. If something happens with rugby, it would be bringing them to club status instead of varsity, where the scholarships don't count. That would help the Title IX numbers, but you know, they're such a great program. How do you do that? And you may lose a lot of donors that are affiliated with both rugby and football. So it's a tricky situation. Everybody just says cut. We have too many, but nobody has real good solutions about how to go about that. Not that I've heard anyway.
Yeah, Garth is saying you move rugby back to club. Dwayne has a question: is Oliver Luck working independently from Kliavkoff, or is he working on the ACC merger or something else?
I think he's working with Kliavkoff. And it would be about the ACC merger for sure. I don't think there's nobody's in position to independently hire him outside of the conference.
And Steve Scott would like to know, what if Cal and Stanford joined the Ivy League?
I don't think that's a good solution at all. There's no money in it. It would be a disaster for the whole Cal athletics program. They'd have no money to fund it.
Hey, just one other, forgive me if I missed it here. Did you talk at all about how we are in our kicking game?
No, I didn't talk about the kicking game. Michael Luckhurst, Mick Luckhurst's son, could be one of the better kickers we've seen in a long time at Cal. He's got a really big leg, gets really good loft on his kicks, which has been a problem in recent years. And he's got really good range. He's hit kicks over 60 yards in practice before. So, and he seems to be pretty strong in the mental game, because everybody knows the mental game is so important in kicking. So he has the potential to be a really good kicker for him. Their long snapping situation was a little unsettled in fall camp, though. They got a really highly rated long snapper out of high school, David Bird, but his snaps were somewhat inconsistent, and that could mess with the kicking game somewhat. So hopefully they've gotten that settled down. They brought in a backup JC long snapper too, so he'll get his shot if Bird continues to struggle. It's a weird thing, because Zellers was another guy, Slater Zellers, that was super highly recruited at long snapper out of high school, and he started out well, but then he slipped for a couple of years, and they just need stability at that position. It needs to be automatic. You don't want to know who the long snapper is. Just the ball has to be money every time.
And Richard was asking, what are the chances that the Pac-4 survives and expands?
I think virtually zero. I don't think that there's any programs that are going to bring any kind of revenue to the conference to make it viable at all. It would probably be AAC. Just not enough high quality teams to be able to make it work.
Okay, I don't see any other questions in chat. Is there anybody that is doing in chat that would like to ask something? Just come on off mute for a second and ask your question.
Gary, I have a question for Jim.
Well, then ask it.
All right. Jim, sort of in summary, and you've sort of touched on this on a number of your responses already. So it seems like that Cal has obviously picked up a lot of really nice transfer portal players. There's some guys that are coming back that are very critical, including some that couldn't play last year. So those are all positives. It seems like the major maybe question mark that may offset all of that is just that the schedule is so tough this year. And so the team could actually play better than last year, but it just could be a challenge to really break through and get to the bowl game just because of the schedule. Is that a good summary of the possibility?
That's a fair assessment for sure. I wrote a story last week about why Cal could be back in a bowl game, and wrote the counterpoints that despite the improvements, the schedule may be too hard to overcome. They have had 2 years in a row where they've lost 4 games by 7 points or less. So the margin of defeat has not been very big. So if they can cut into that margin despite the tough schedule, they can get there. But like I said, rattling off those road games, Utah and Washington and Oregon and UCLA, and home against Auburn and USC, they're going to have to be on their game. They're going to have to win all the games they're supposed to win, and they're going to have to pull a couple of relatively minor upsets to be able to get to the 7 or 8 wins. I don't think anybody wants to see squeaking into a bowl game at 6-6. I mean, it would be at least a little bit of progress, but it would really be something that fans would be hard pressed to get too excited about. So I think really you need to see that 3-game improvement, and it's not going to be easy. I mean, people can talk about, oh, we've got the talent to do it, but so does the opponent. The schedule is not an easy one.
Right. So would you say to get to 7 or 8 wins without, I know you don't predict individual games, but really the non-conference probably has to be at least 2 wins, and obviously all 3 of those would be that much better.
I think they need to sweep the preseason, including Auburn, and they need to hopefully win at least 4 games in conference. And I think everybody wants to see at least 5 because they haven't had a winning conference record in 14 years, and it's way
Right.
too long. It's not
Right.
asking too much to go 5-4 in conference, even in a good conference.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else have a question for Jim? Just go ahead and come off mute or put it into chat.
So can some of you influential SAC Grid Club people get the team to make the Arizona State game an afternoon game so I can go to my 40th class reunion?
I'll do what I can.
Pull some SAC Grid Club strings.
Alex, can you help us with that?
I wish I could. I wish I could. I got the girlfriend's parents in town that weekend, so a morning game would be incredibly beneficial for me as well.
All right, we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, anyone else have any questions for Jim? All right, well, Jim, thank you so much. It's always great to hear from you, and you've always got great insight. And thanks again. And I'm probably hoping to run into you somewhere at one of the games we usually run into you. Oddly enough, are you going to Texas?
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe
tomorrow.
I'll run into you there because we seem to run into each other at those non-conference road games a lot.
Yeah, those are the best.
Oh, they are. They are. So we'll know who you are. You'll be one of the ones melting in 101-degree heat.
When I'm not in the press box in the AC, yes.
All right. All right. Okay, well, Jim, thanks again. Always a pleasure. Always great to have you here.
Thanks, everyone. Go Bears.
Yeah, go Bears. So that's going to wrap it up. So remember September 20th, and I just put into chat the link to register for Justin Allegre. That should be a really good fun meeting. So if you haven't registered for that, do so. But there'll be more emails going out on that. And then keep an eye on your email for October 11th as the plans firm up for Jim Knowlton. And again, watch for just other SACCAL alumni events. Going to have some other stuff going on, both sports and Cal athletics and non-Cal athletics related. And as always, donations are always welcome. It's the link is in the email for that. So we don't charge dues. We don't charge for these types of meetings. So so far we haven't had to do any charging because the donations have been fine. But we need to keep that going. And no amount is too large. Just remember that. So anyways, this is a Nike shirt, but it's from Under Armour Nike. So it's not a current one. So we'll see. Yes, hope to see some of you there in Texas and see you in Memorial Stadium. And with that, good night, everyone, and go Bears.
Go Bears.
Alice, thank you for being here with us.
See you in Texas, Gary.
See you in Texas.
Go Bears.
Go Bears.
Gary.